Okay, perfect. So I think that's the big piece. And then on our side, we are for sure making sure that our staff have the training too, like just to brush up on some of this and maybe even learn some advanced skills around Excel that might facilitate this process. But with that, I want to turn it over to you to take us into our continued lesson.
Thank you. So I think last time we did the request list and the work queue monitor. Did anyone have any burning questions after that session that they wanted to ask before we go to the next tab? Okay, and are you able to make me a host, please, Angela, so that I may share my screen?
Done. Sorry, I
Thank you.
usually remember that part at the beginning of meetings, but not today.
I always forget to. All right. So this time we are going to be doing the message center polls. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. So I think I already went over each of the columns because I have a bunch of them hidden here right now. But basically this will also have the same assigned resources and manager that's here. And I'm just gonna hide it so then we can go straight into the data poll. Okay. So I'm just gonna set up my following day. So again, this is all from VGH and I'm just adding on a different day. So I'm just gonna say that this is for today. April 4th at 1500. And I want to make this thing part of my table. I think I didn't show this last time because I had it pre-populated already, but in order to add another day, that's basically the steps, is just to copy and paste it over. And I'm just gonna make this purple so that we can tell us that one's a daily change. Okay, so now let's go into the actual report. So again, I'm gonna be going into Discern reporting portal. And the report that I'll be pulling is the message center and task report. So I'm gonna go into build domain this time. Unfortunately, my production was not running any reports for me today, so I had to do it in build. So I am going to search for the message center and task report. And I'm going to run.
That is the first time I've heard that someone is having issues running reports in prod.
Really?
That's weird. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
I must be special. It is very, like, this has been running. This was me trying to run this earlier. And I ran this report literally 2 hours ago and it's still loading.
Oh, okay. Well, that's concerning.
That is concerning, but I've never had this issue before when I was running the WIP like on a daily basis. So I don't know if it's like a today thing or if there's actually something wrong.
Okay.
But I think even for requisition manager, I flagged that it was loading really slow, and I told the reporting team. So hopefully they're checking it.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so into the prompt for message center. So like many of the reports, I like to do a poll in detail in Excel so that we can manipulate the data. Our start and end dates are usually from whenever go live started, but in this case, for something that's already been live, I think we would just need to have a certain parameter in terms of how far back we can look. So as an example, we could do the start of the year up until today's date. And in this case, we are looking for the pools. So I'm going to select the pool recipient here. And depending on the site that we're working on, so for example, we were doing BGH, I could type in BGH. And unfortunately, this is probably the most tedious part of this process is they haven't put in a select all here. So during the go lives, we've had to select every single pool that's on here.
Isn't that like horrendous? Like, isn't there a lot of message? Oh, okay. So it's not that many.
Oh,
Like it's-
no, you're correct. There's a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We need to put an ask. Can we need to submit a report enhancement ask. Jackie, can I get one of your BAs to work on that for this? That's not a huge ask for them to do, right?
No, it shouldn't be because
Yeah,
the
I
other
think-
reports have it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of asking for it. And we should put that in ASAP.
Mhm. I like how process improvement oriented you guys are. This is great.
You're like, I've just had to slug along with all of
Yeah.
this.
But yeah, so we would have to select every
Like, that's
single
like
one.
100 clicks that you have to do just for this running of one report to select all of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We tried to do it by encounter location before, but then we found that we would miss some because people from anywhere could send a message to any encounter pool.
Yeah.
So we had to do it like this way instead. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not going to select every single one because I've already pre-done that here. But just so that everyone's aware, you do have to tick off the box. And then the encounter location, as I mentioned, we just leave it at no filter. So then it's capturing all of the locations. And then for the status, we don't want completed and deleted because there's nothing to follow up on, and canceled as well. But everything else we keep. And a lot of these actually don't even show up on the, they're not a commonly used status, so they don't show up on the report. But we would just need to uncheck canceled, completed, and deleted. And that's really it for the prompt. So I would just hit execute on this like everything else, but I will not right now because it will take a long time. So I'm going to close out. And this is what that report will look like. So again, you'll see the recipient group, which is really what we're interested in. And some other useful information that won't show up on the WIP, but is good when we're actually doing the pivot, includes the task type, so what kind of message it is. And we'll be looking at the status as well. So similar to the other tabs, I just need to be able to copy and paste this over to an Excel so then we can do our pivot table. So I'm going to select all on here by clicking on the top left. I'm going to hit Control C so I can copy, go back to my Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to create a new tab. And then from here, I can just paste. So now we have an Excel of all of the different message center pools across VGH. So again, we'll do our usual, create a table. And from here, I can summarize with a pivot table. Wow, there's lots of people Skyping me. So now the fields that we would like to add to our pivot is the recipient group So the recipient group is our message center pool. So I'm gonna throw that into the rows. So we get a nice summary. And I'm also gonna throw that into the values. So we can see how many messages are in each one. I also like to look at the statuses just to see what statuses are there. So right now they're only opened and pending. So these are two different statuses that we want to monitor, particularly the pending ones. Okay, so from here, I just want to be able to throw all of this data to this part of the spreadsheet. So I am going to start again with the VLOOKUP that we did.
Andrea, like, okay, now you remember earlier you were talking about we don't want the canceled, closed, or I think there was another value discharge. I can't remember what the third one was. But wouldn't you want to pull in so that the managers at least can see those ones that are being actioned? And oh, okay, there was like 15 that were closed or processed. Yes, canceled, complete. Like, so wouldn't we want to run complete? Maybe not deleted or yeah.
So the reasoning behind not including the completed, and of course we're obviously open to changing it, is that there's no action required at that point, because the work in progress is meant to capture what's not being worked. And if it's already been completed, then the assumption is there's nothing to do at that point.
Right. I guess I see where you're going, but I was thinking if it's comparing day to day, then you're not really seeing there's a critical piece of a number that's missing, and those are the ones that are being completed on a regular basis, right? It's just showing the values of those that are being left outstanding.
So
But-
I think they could definitely run, like, is that something that they would hope to pull from the work in progress tool?
Well, maybe not. I guess I was just thinking that this was highlighting, is this being worked on or is it not being worked on? But if you're not pulling the completed figure, then you can't really confidently say, hey, like these message center pools, this one's not being monitored, right? Because there's nothing being completed. It's all just growing. But maybe, okay, I'll let you continue on.
No, you're right though. So on that point, if it does continue to grow, then that would be a red flag for us to follow up on.
Okay.
For sure.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so going back to this part, so I'm gonna do our handy dandy VLOOKUP again. So the formula is very similar. So equals VLOOKUP. And I'm gonna do my open bracket. And again, our lookup value is just the unique value that we're trying to find, which is in this case, our message center pool name. So I'm just gonna select that. I'm gonna hit comma. The table array is just where the data is that we're pulling from, which is our pivot table. So I think it was this one. So I'm just gonna select columns A to B as our table. And I'm gonna hit comma again. And then the column index number is just saying, if you find that unique value, pull in the second column. So I'm gonna put 2, pull in the data within the second column. And then I'm gonna hit comma. And then again, we want an exact match. So I'm gonna hit false. And from there, I can hit enter. And we can see again, if it's NA, that usually means it's 0. So there's nothing in the pool. And then if there are, then there are the numbers available here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this as values again. So I'm going to select everything in that column. I'm going to hit copy and paste as values. So then we don't lose the data. And to make it clean, I'm going to find, so I'm going to hit Control F. And I'm going to go to the Replace tab. And I'm just going to say that anything with hashtag NA will be replaced with a 0. So I see my traditional formatting didn't actually carry over. So I'm just going to steal it from here. And I'm going to hit Format Painter and select it on all of them, so that we can see quite easily where there are less than 0 or more than 0 in the pools. So from here, we'll do the daily change again, which is just today minus yesterday. So we can see the change in data. And again, I'm gonna just pull in my conditional formatting, so then we can clearly look at the changes in data. Okay, and the last piece is, again, we're always looking for the oldest new document or oldest new message. But really, in this case, it's the oldest pending message, so an unopened message. So there's going to be a bit of data manipulation again when I go back to my table here. So from here, I just want to make sure I'm sorting by the earliest to the latest date. So it looks like it's already been sorted that way. And I'm going to go to my status. And I want to delete everything that's already been opened because we don't care about them anymore. So there's not a lot in this case. So I'm just going to delete this. So this will leave us with the pools that have something that is pending. And from here, I just want to remove all of the duplicate message center pools so that we can isolate the pools with new or with pending messages in them. So now we have the earliest date, the earliest new / pending message for each message center pool. So then I can pull it in again using VLOOKUP. So I'm going to do VLOOKUP, hit the message center pool, go back to my table, and get the date. And I think last time the date didn't quite work out that well. So I'm just going to hit 3 and an exact match. Okay. So it's showing up as a number. So I'm just going to change this to a date that we can all read. That is a nicer format than that. So like usual, I'm just gonna select all and then copy and paste this as values so that the formulas don't get messed up. And then the usual clean it up with replacing the NAs with just a hyphen. So we can tell, again, which ones actually have new or pending messages in them. Like this one. Okay, Any questions for the message center pools?
Remind me again. Were you presenting this at VGH when they went live?
Wasn't presenting it in particular to like a leadership group. It was more, I would consume this and do the analysis. Say, for example, I would look at all the ones that have the most and the ones that haven't been touched, and I would only flag these ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so this information wasn't really going back to any ops group. You guys were then just kind of creating tickets or flagging for Jaden or something like that.
Exactly, yes. This one never really got shown to the ops managers at VGH. They were only given the output.
And Rosa mentioned to me that she does have something similar to this from a clinical aspect. Is that right? Like they are also running different types of like more clinical in nature type of reports?
That's very possible. I wasn't aware.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
But that would be an interesting, like orders.
Yeah, she didn't really she didn't really go into it, but she was like, she's monitoring stuff from a clinical perspective too. So she said that I have a similar type of tool I use for clinical to monitor that, clinical stuff is being actioned on. So,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know what that looks like or is.
yeah, I don't think I've seen that one before. That would be interesting to look at.
Right?
But I guess it makes sense that this has been focused on your team since it's mostly clerical, except for message center pools. The only one.
Okay.
Okay. And actually, just as a note, this is one of the ways that we usually do our analysis on things. Like we'll sort it by largest so we know what our biggest one is. So I'm just gonna quickly go back to the request list, because you can tell if I sort this from largest to smallest, which ones our problem areas are. And this is how we were able to focus on what we needed to flag. And we also do the same for the daily changes, the biggest to the smallest. So we can tell which ones are having the biggest changes day by day.
Sorry, Andrea. And then you would create JIRA tickets associated with this, or what was that process you used?
For sure.
Yeah.
So step one is usually like, because it was during the go live period, we had access to Slack. So I would normally just first off try to get someone to, talk to the clerk first, because people freak out when we log tickets.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was our first step. So could somebody please check in on, for example, the epilepsy clinic? They had a huge influx of wait lists all of a sudden, like what's going on? And they'll either say, oh, this is normal, we did that on purpose, or oh no, we haven't been looking at this at all. What are we supposed to do now? And then generally that's when we log a ticket. And actually one of the biggest issues during VGH was requisition manager, which we'll get to in a sec, but I can show you what I did when I logged an incident ticket for requisition manager. If I think did I log it? I guess I did. So reporter is me. Oh, here. So just so you guys can just look at me looking for this ticket. Yeah, so these were two of them. So I logged one for the transplant clinic. So large numbers of unprocessed requisitions in a solid organ transplant requisition manager. And I would isolate just those requisitions. So this could be anything. This could be request lists, like you could log a ticket for request list or work queue monitor. And then we would just flag how many there have been. Like, I think we did this one every week. Yeah, every week. So then the ops managers were aware that this was happening, because this would get flashed up whenever we did our critical and high meeting for shape of the day. And then we could see the progress, and you can tell, like, from the first week to the last week of go live, they processed a lot, because there were more eyes on it when we log a ticket.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So our team supports that and on that Slack group. So we probably were the ones being flagged when you were doing this stuff, and then, running around trying to do some of that education. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. And I think it was just the same. Yeah, the same for the pulmonary, smaller group, but still quite a bit.
So you were very select in the JIRA tickets that you created. Like, you really just created it for when you started to feel concerned about some of the numbers that were really.
Exactly. Yes. And I guess too, like, I had almost like a daily quick meeting with Sally, just like a quick 10 minutes. What are the high areas of concern?
Yeah.
And she would also help guide, like, oh, for infusions, it's normal to have 1,000 things on the request list.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't need to worry about that. But yes, log a ticket for this one, because we need this to be very, very high visibility.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Were there any other questions around the message center tools? Okay. I'm just going to delete these two so we keep it clean. And the next one we'll do is requisition manager. So requisition manager is a much smaller group of clinics, because it's only turned on in specific locations that people decide on during design. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to copy this one over and make this a table, and make this also the same. So for requisition manager, we have the number of overdue requisitions. And again, our criteria for overdue requisitions is basically the ones that haven't been printed and or marked complete. So I'm going to go to the CERN reporting portal, and the report that we're using this time is our requisition manager unprocessed audit. So I'm just going to jump to my build. This one's build, yes. We do requisition manager. Oh, that one's new. Requisition manager dashboard data. I've never run that one, but this is the one we want. Requisition manager unprocessed audit. So I'm going to hit run on this. So this one is fairly simple in terms of the prompts. I just select, again, the facility that we're doing. So in this case, it would be VGH. And I would do an uncheck on this. We don't want to overload the system. But during the go live periods, I would normally do, again, whenever the go live period was. And in this case, we could do the beginning of the year to today's date. And from here, we can hit execute. There's not a lot of prompts here, which will take us to this. So this is what the Excel looks like of the requisition manager unprocessed audit. So it does do it by patient and what type of requisition. the type and subtype, because that also helps us identify which ones are more urgent. We generally flag referrals more than anything else, if there are a lot of those that are showing unprocessed. And we also have the requested date, which is good for us to be able to prioritize which requisitions people should be working on first. Okay, so similar to what we did earlier, this is just a matter of copying the whole report and creating a new spreadsheet and pasting it here. Once you keep running this over and over again, you'll find that the steps are actually quite similar. So once you get the hang of one, it's quite easy to do the other tabs as well. So I'm just going to make this into a table again. And I'm going to summarize with a pivot table. I'm going to hit OK. And then this time, I want the unit. So I'm going to put that into the rows so we know which areas there are. And I'm also going to put that in the values. So this gives us the summary of all the different unprocessed requisitions for this particular clinic. So I can go back here again. Oh, I didn't delete this. I can delete that and do my VLOOKUP. So again, equals VLOOKUP, open bracket. I'm going to select the location, comma. I'm going to go to my pivot table, select both columns, and hit 2, because again, my unique data is in one column and I want it to pull from the second column. And we want an exact match. So here we are again, gonna copy all of this and paste it as values so we don't lose the data with the formulas. And since there's only one NA, I'm just gonna do a 0 on it. I don't have to do the find replace. And then our daily change, again, is always gonna be equals today's number minus yesterday's number. And that will give us a pretty good indication of all the changes for that location. All right, this one's probably the simplest one. Does anyone have any questions for a requisition manager?
I got a quick question. It might be really dumb, and that's because I don't do Excel stuff very often. But you know how when you copy and paste the report values over, and then I know you were like copying and pasting, so then it's the values in itself that remain. Do you delete that sheet, that worksheet afterwards? Because
yes, I do delete them afterwards.
Right, because then otherwise we'd be keeping so many worksheets.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you do delete them as you go along once you copy and paste the values over. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
It would also take like a very long time for I used to keep them, but then it was too like it just to open the work in progress would take so long. So I was like, I don't need it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So I could actually just delete this right now because we've already copied and pasted the values over. Okay, we're almost there, guys. 2 more, and these 2 are actually quite similar. So if I show you one, it's going to be the same as the other one. So let's do past due arrival. So I think this one is, do you guys already have a system for monitoring this actually, Karen?
Well, it's Andrea's team. She tries really hard. It's a beast to manage. Andrea, I'll let you jump in.
It is a beast to manage. We kind of had clinics divvied between user readiness. And when we first took it over, it was just a handful of clinics at St. Paul's. And now you know how many clinics there are at
Mhm.
multiple sites. So they're kind of divvied between the URs, and then on a weekly basis, they run the past due arrivals for their areas and the clinics that they're assigned to. And they kind of keep track similar to this, but just on their own spreadsheets. And then they contact the clinics when they notice that they're going up, or, you know, reach out to managers. And we're constantly reminding people to manage their work lists. But it's
Oh,
very manual right now. So this will be useful for the URs or operations if they end up taking this over.
Yeah,
Okay.
we really need to bring like focus to all of this in a way that like we're setting up a process somehow, like either it's weekly, right? Where this actually goes to operations managers and they're looking at it, right? That's the piece that we'll have to set up in future, I think.
Totally agree. Yeah, because then they'll be able to see just the changes that has been happening within their clinic.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that's what Angela's group has found. The feedback they receive, you know, is that the managers don't even know what the clerks have to do, what they should be doing. It's like kind of like the clerks get trained and then it's managers don't get that training, right? And I don't think all managers kind of participate to really understand what their clerks are going through and what they have to run and do.
Agreed. And I actually found that when we were at BC Cancer, I had to sit down with every manager and walk them through like, this is a request list and this is why you should care about what's on the request list.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
each one. Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, I should be recommending managers to take training.
Yeah. Actually, now that you say that, isn't that a patient care manager position?
You know, I really don't know.
If they
It's
don't have registration scheduling in their provisioning, they don't take the training. So they would
yeah,
not be exposed to this,
but really,
I see.
but they
they
should be.
right, and we need
Because
to.
Andrea, we've had the same conversations multiple times with BC Cancer about request lists and past due arrivals, and
Yeah,
it's just
and
not sticking.
in like talking that over with you, Andrea, it really seems like that's a gap. Like operations managers should have a training that enables that they get to understand. I need to know what my clerical staff are doing, what I need to be monitoring, how tools that are available to me to monitor that, right?
Mhm.
Like really, that piece is not there at all.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And you could even have a one for like an ambulatory manager and an acute manager.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they do different things, but for sure, it's always been a gap because you're right. Like the first things they usually ask is like, what am I supposed to be looking at? Like,
Yeah, right. And if we just kind of gave them training right up front, that would really enable them to be able to support their staff and then to be able to say, wow, Karen's going to have a crap load of stuff to do. I don't even know if this is realistic or whatever,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you like take that feedback back to Sally? No. Seems like
I,
you have Sally's
you know
ear.
what though? Sally is a total huge proponent of that. I remember she used to say why. I can ask her when I speak to her again
Yeah,
as to if there's been any changes about that.
exactly. She must realize that too, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Because it was her idea too for me to talk to all the managers and when they asked them if they'd ever been told what these things are.
Oh, and that's how this came together. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I think moving forward, it would be great to develop some kind of training for this patient access or these operations managers or the acute or ambulatory operations managers. And yeah, really need to do that somehow.
I'm putting that on
I'm
my
gonna,
list.
yeah, and I want to like talk to Rosa about that too.
yeah, you might, if we go at it from both sides and then they both talk, that might be
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
okie dokes. So I'll just quickly do the past due arrivals one. So again, I'm going to copy and paste this for formatting purposes. Bring it over here, delete all the data, and add it to my table. And this will be April 4th at this point, it's 15:45. All right, so going into Discern, I'm sure sounds like Angela's already aware that we're running the same reports, the past due arrival summary by clinic. And I'm just gonna, oh, look at that, it's the last one I did. So again, you can just search past due arrivals by clinic, hit run, and rule of thumb for the prompt, always do CSV to easily move data around. Select the location. So again, for this one, we're doing BGH. And then in this case, we can go, this one can go all the way for 12 months. I can even go as far back as our go live on the 5th or 4th. And I'm in production now, so I'm actually interested to see how many is in here, or if it will take a very long time to run. Oh, not at all. Okay. So from here, same thing, we want to copy the whole spreadsheet. And I'm gonna hit Control-C. Gonna go back to my work in progress. I'm gonna open up a new sheet, and I'm gonna paste the data here. So this one is a little bit different in that I don't have to do my data manipulation. I'm actually only really interested in the totals for each one. And if people need information for their clinic, they can just go straight into the report and see what the breakdown is in terms of the types of appointment status for their clinics. So from the past due arrivals, I can still do a VLOOKUP. So again, I'm going to do equals, VLOOKUP, oops, not it, open bracket, again, selecting the unique identifier, which is the work list name. I'm going to copy, oh, sorry, not copy, put a comma. And I'm going to select column C because that's where our totals, the naming convention is for the totals. And I'm going to go all the way to E. And this time around, when I hit comma, I'm going to say 3 for the index number, because this is saying that if the data matches in this column, pull the data from the third column. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to hit comma again, and then exact match, so false. And that will populate with the information. This is showing up as NA because I didn't pull UBC, but that should be included. And so I'm going to do my usual, select all this data here, copy, and paste as values. And then just to clean it up again, we can do our replace the NA with a 0. So only 3 clinics don't have anything in their past due arrivals. So this is production data. So let's see what the changes from today since the last day of go live support.
Oh, that's not as ugly as I thought it was going to be.
And there's some really good clinics. Like, look at the diabetes clinic.
it's just that I totally agree with you, Karen. The numbers look really good when you're looking clinic by clinic, but when you run a whole site and it adds up,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
So when we
exactly.
see like PHC with thousands, but all of their clinics are live and everyone's under 100. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. This one is 5,500 in total.
Exactly, right? That's already, yeah.
But really, they're not that bad, right? Anything
mean-
under 100, 200 is doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But what they don't understand, well, I guess, see, some of those are no-shows. They might need to be rescheduled.
Yeah.
Some of those, maybe they forgot to check in the patient,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like these are things that they should be looking into. Yeah. But you know, nothing, we have had, Andrea, I know Angela can speak to this. We've had like where there'll be like 900 or, you know,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it's
Oh,
really,
no, we've had clinics or medical imaging with 7,000.
yeah.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
anymore, but that's probably the highest they got.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So it isn't as ugly. And I think these guys try to work hard with them, but it is a bit of a challenge. And I don't know why it's, yeah. This daily monitoring of their clinics, that's the other thing that I feel like we need to, a manager should be going in to look at their clinics, their staff's clinics. I don't think they do that either.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
you know what? If I were a manager and I actually had access to this document, I would so easily be able to just, like, if we had this open, I could just look at all the managers that are assigned to me.
Exactly. All this,
And-
yeah,
Yeah, and be able to tell like which ones I need to focus on.
yeah, totally. So I think that's the pieces we can
Mhm.
give them, like, I'm gonna work with Rosa on this, and if you can work with Sally too,
For sure.
like I feel like we need to do something. And this is a great tool. You guys have already like started it, but it's just like carrying that forward a little bit more.
Mhm.
You
And
know,
if people smarter than me can figure out how to take this away from Excel and just automate it, even
Oh.
better.
I know, wouldn't that be nice? I don't know if
Yeah.
that's gonna be possible. I'll leave it to our BAs. But yeah, I think at least creating ops jobs instead of having to like go and daily generate all these reports would be a big step forward in this process.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I can't, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if anyone in this group has any experience using what we call macros,
Mm-hmm.
these can actually run your own almost like little ops job within the Excel sheet.
Oh, nice. I know
I
a
just don't know how to do it.
couple of our guys do. I'll let them speak on it. Hello, Abraham. There's probably others that I'm. Deepa.
Hi everyone. I haven't used the macro function myself, but I work on it. I work on Dave's code, so I'm kind of familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I created a couple Excel macros years ago that took a Cerner report and just formatted it and removed some columns and swapped some things around. So we might be able to do something similar here to
Mhm.
try and automate some of the copy paste. But when you're copy pasting and creating pivot tables, that part I'm not so sure about. So maybe there's some of it we might be able to automate, but I actually have to, one, remember how I did it like 3 years ago, and then two, see if that same process could work with these sheets.
Yeah, and we are going to get them to maybe take some advanced course training too that might help with this process, right?
For sure. And I'm glad that you guys already have some experience in it, because I tried and I just could not. There's a reason I'm not like a builder. Let's put it
You and
that
me
way.
both. You and me both, yeah.
Okay, so I think the last piece here is the referral encounter, but it's actually quite similar to the past due arrivals, and we just included like the statuses here as well, because we were most interested in like the acceptance, for example, not getting booked more than anything. So I can send over the SOP for this one. So Karen, what are good next steps for us here?
So I think that our staff are pretty flat out right now, just.
For sure.
So I think we need to figure out, I need to work with Jackie and Angela and try to come up with what is our next steps on this. We'd like to use it. Like I know this year as those sites are going live, I know your team has been doing a lot of work. So we want our staff to be running it, right? But so someone's gonna have to, both of these teams, like Jackie's and Angela's team, like they'll both have a role in this. Like the BAs will be creating this report, right? Doing all of the manipulation of the data to provide a report. And then we kind of are probably going to need the user readiness team to work, you know, to receive it and then action on it as well. So I think that's what I'm kind of thinking of at a high level, and how that plays in formally, I don't know. I need to have some discussions with my team internally to see what is really feasible for, like, when is isn't the next go live BC Cancer Prince George, which is like not that far away, I might add.
Yes, that's
right?
my site
Like,
too.
yeah, so for us to absorb this, which I think BC Cancer definitely needs, right? So we'll try to really get on board, but I think we need to, yeah. Can you give me a little bit of time to figure out, you know, put our heads together, our team leads, and you know, and working with their staff too, and understanding some of this, and then can we get back to you?
Of course, yeah. So just to give you a heads up, Karen, we usually start pulling like these two columns right after sit.
Oh, wow.
So probably the first week or two of May, I'm going to start putting in the request for the design teams to give me the extracts for BC Cancer to populate this. And if you have someone that I could work with, just to show them what I'm doing, that might be a good learning opportunity for them.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, so help me understand, how can you pull data right after sit when it hasn't even gone live yet? What are you looking at?
They're usually just looking at build, because build at that point should be pretty good.
Just to establish who is going to be, who's the manager, who is the staff member that's going to be monitoring it, and start populating that information versus the data.
Exactly. Yeah. So we focus, all this is pre-go live, and then the rest of it is post-go live.
Exactly. Okay. So the pre-go live stuff, you start working at it, look right around sit time, or right at shortly following sit.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Okay. So we will get back to you. So Prince George is in July, and then
June.
Sorry, June. Prince George is in June. And then after that, it's CNW and VGH in July.
Correct. Yes.
And then we have like a couple months, and then it goes into forensics, right?
Yes, and forensics should be quite low in terms, like, because they don't have request lists.
Exactly, they're inpatient only. So forensics won't be as much, but UBC, of course, will be
massive.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. I will. Thank you so much. Oh, look at that. We're right on time.